a second here and go.
At the U.S. Department of State Hispanic Employees Council of Foreign Affairs Agencies. My name is Aisha Hernandez Ramos from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. This month, we celebrate our heritage, and for me, it's a great honor to be awarded with this year's theme, Hispanics, be proud of your past and embrace the future. To represent Hispanic is a great honor, and we should be proud of our heritage. Our history is a rich one, and there is no better place like home. Our families trace the past, and now we are here to be proud of it and move on to embrace the future. Let's get together and celebrate our root, our language, our culture. Be proud of your past and embrace the future. Enjoy the town hall and a big hug from the beautiful Puerto Rico. Now we have one of the USDA ASE members who will be served as the facilitator. Brianna.
I think you're muted.
Can you hear me now? Okay. Thank you, Aisha. My name is Brianna, and I'm here to introduce the panel this afternoon. We're going to kick it off with Dr. Cristobal Zepeda. He is the Area Director for South America, Pacific, and Central America under USDA APHIS's International Services. He's based out of the U.S. Embassy in Lima, Peru. Dr. Cristobal, you can take it over.
Hi, thank you very much, Brianna. Let me give you a brief introduction of my background. I'm a veterinarian from Mexico. I graduated from the vet school in the National Autonomous University of Mexico. And I graduated at a time where getting a decent job was very difficult. I was lucky enough to find my first job in Haiti and Jamaica in a project, looking to bring back pigs, Creole pigs, into Haiti and the Dominican Republic after the eradication of African swine fever that led to the destruction of all the swine population in Haiti and the DR. Unfortunately, that project failed because we found the first case of a disease in Jamaica and our herd had to be slaughtered. I went back to Mexico and started a rabbit farm, but we got affected by rabbit hemorrhagic disease and we had to shut down. So I decided to do something about it and got a master's degree in tropical veterinary medicine in the University of Edinburgh in Scotland. When I came back from Scotland, I joined the Mexico-US Commission for Foreign Animal Diseases and started my career in veterinary epidemiology. After a few years, I moved to a regional international organization in Central America and became their director for animal health. I did that for 4 years. I lived in El Salvador, covering the Central American region. Later on, I was invited to work for the Centers for Epidemiology and Animal Health of USDA Veterinary Services in Fort Collins, Colorado, and I moved to the US. I worked for 15 years for the Centers for Epidemiology and Animal Health, and in the process, I became a US citizen, as well as obtaining a PhD from Colorado State University. In 2014, I decided to move on and change career paths and join the USDA Foreign Service with APHIS International Services. I have been a Foreign Service officer in Mexico, in Brazil, and now I'm starting a new job as the director for the Central American region and South America Pacific, overseeing 11 countries, 6 locally employed staff, and 2 admin assistants, as well as a Foreign Service officer. So in a nutshell, that's how I got here. So I immigrated in 1999, and now I represent the U.S. government abroad. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Cristobal. So our next panelist is Mr. Roberto Pantaleon, and he is the Director of Action Programs under USDA APHIS International Services, and he's currently out of Riverdale, Maryland. So on to you, Mr. Roberto.
Can you hear me now? Yes, sorry. Good afternoon to everyone. In my case, I'm an agriculture engineer. I was born in Puerto Rico and grew up in the Dominican Republic. And I come from a diverse background. My father is Dominican, but my mother is from Lebanese origin. So I'm a mixed race. So after I finished my degree in the DR, I started working first with the USDA ARS in Miami as a technician with a scientist assigned there, usually doing post-harbor quarantine treatments, dealing with fruit flies. From there, I moved up to plant protection and quarantine. I was a quarantine officer at the port of entry of Miami for many years. Then I decided to go like overseas first, and then I spent some time in the Dominican Republic again, working for APHIS there with animal and plant health, both diseases at the same time. Came back to Frederick, Maryland as an instructor for quarantine regulations for plant protection and quarantine also, but also for CBP agriculture specialists. From there, I always wanted to go, like stay in the international area. So I was able to join APHIS International Services as a program manager for capacity building, the new group that was formed there. And I worked together with FAS. And from there, I was assigned to my first post in Guadalajara, Mexico, where I was the director there for the pre-clearance programs. From Guadalajara, I was selected to work with FAS and USAID in a PASA program in Haiti. So I spent 3 years in Haiti working with them, trying to bring up help this Haitian situation after the earthquake. And from there, I was selected to go to Guatemala. So I spent there 5 years in Guatemala working with MedFly and all their SPS issues around in Guatemala, Belize, and I also used to assist in El Salvador and Honduras issues. Working together with Mexico and Guatemala in a trilateral commission for eradication of the fruit fly, MedFly in this case, and also Mexican fruit fly, the other fly. And after that, I came back to the stateside at the beginning of the year, and I'm now looking at 2 programs. I'm looking at the MedFly program in Guatemala, and I'm also looking at the screwworm eradication program that is in Panama, that we keep a barrier there to control and to prevent the spread of the screwworm in all Central America and Mexico and North America, because it was eradicated many years ago. So at this point, I'm here. I did, in the meantime, I completed a master's degree in food safety programs with an online program with University of Costa Rica. And at this moment, I'm working, with all this pandemic thing. We're working everybody from home, but I'm overseeing both programs at this time. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So we are supposed to have two other panelists. As you all know, there's been some technical issues throughout all of this. They're having a hard time entering into the call. I'm still going to introduce them quickly, and then I'm going to ask some questions to our two current panelists. So the two that were supposed to be joining us are Mr. Rodrigo Garza. He's a special assistant in the Office of the Undersecretary for Economic Growth, Energy, and Environment, and he's in the U.S. Department of State. And then there's also Mr. Greg Pardo. He's a political officer in the Office of Israeli and Palestinian Affairs in the Bureau of Near Eastern Affairs for the U.S. Department of State. We're hoping that they can get on the call. As of right now, there's still some issues. So I'm going to ask you guys some questions that we came up with. The first question is, as a Hispanic in the Foreign Service, how do you feel when working in another country, and especially in a country that shares values or traditions to which you have been exposed through your family of Hispanic origin?
If I could start,
Yep.
I think that first of all, the ability to understand another culture, not only the Hispanic culture, breeds tolerance, and that's incredibly important in the Foreign Service. Now, working in a country that shares your Hispanic background and culture is very interesting, because on one hand, you can decipher clues in the language expressions, body language, that will help you understand if your counterparts are actually willing to work with you or not. On the other hand, in certain cultures, you might feel like if you are serving two masters, perhaps, and that's a tricky situation to navigate. I would leave it at that for the time being.
Roberto, it's now your turn.
Oh, okay, thank you. Well, as Cristobal mentioned, I come from a diverse background. You know, half of my family is Dominican, half of my family was Lebanese origin. So you come with a very rich background of being, I call it being flexible, but also being aware of the difference between the cultures and the things. And then working in Latin America with people that speak the same language, more or less, or you can communicate easier. You adapt, you understand what is going on. As Cristobal mentioned, you learn how to read that body language and those things that are embedded in the conversation. But also is the issue that you're serving two masters. So in the meantime, you're trying to enforce US rules and regulations regarding plant and animal health issues, but at the same time, you need to be flexible enough to accommodate your partners, especially when we have like agreements. And I've been working with other countries we have agreements or cooperation agreements, and then you need to be flexible, be aware of the needs of the necessity, and then try to navigate between those two things. So that flexibility that your culture and the language, especially, and not only the Spanish language, in other countries that is the same thing. You are able to understand the other cultures that are different from you. You are able to put yourself in their place, and that helps you to gain empathy from them. And there is a rapport, a relationship that is created between that. And inside that relationship, you're able to do your job and try to promote U.S. agriculture, protect American agriculture, and do all those things. And being, your cultural background is an asset in this case, because you're able to adapt very fast in what is going on, and you're able to find out what is the issue and then take care of that issue in a way that keeps the relationship running and keeps the relationship and the good faith, or the good faith of the government, the U.S. government in the program, and at the same time you stay engaged.
Thank you, guys. On to the next question. With this year's theme being Hispanics, be proud of your past and embrace your future, what have you both learned from your past and what moves you to your future, or to the future? You're on mute.
I am. Yeah, over the years, I've worked extensively with the World Organization for Animal Health, the OIE. And I've served in multiple working groups of the OIE. And one thing I've learned from that experience, which is the past, is that no one knows everything. And as a Foreign Service officer, I think our role is to understand who knows what and how to put those pieces together in the bigger picture of international trade. To me, that recognition of being an expert on one part doesn't mean that you're an expert on everything is extremely important. And that carries me also into the future as wanting to understand the bigger picture of international trade, international relations, and the role of the U.S. government abroad. Roberto?
Well, I believe that as a Hispanic, you need to be proud of your origin and what you bring with you, and that cultural richness, or that you bring with you, it could be used. You use it in your favor to go out there and do your job, and try to do the best you can, and try to connect with the people. So in this year of the Be Proud of Being Hispanic, I think we need to be proud of what we have, the different cultures that we bring together, and the different it's so many things that you have inside through your years, that you accumulate in your years, that give you, it's like a tool belt. You have you have so many tools there that you can use them to be able to do your job, represent the U.S. government, represent the USDA, and in a way that you create the relationship, you maintain the relationship with your counterparts, and at the same time you're able to do your job and then protect the U.S. agriculture. So I believe I feel always proud for where I come from and all my richness in my background that I grew up with. And it also not only in Latin America, but also I've been in other places, like I've been in the Middle East, in Egypt and other places. And the moment they found out that your background or who you are, the relationship change automatically, and they treat you, it takes down those barriers, those cultural barriers that some people put up. And especially also when in other countries where you can speak their language and they understand where you're coming from, they are more willing to work with you, and you are able to convince them that this is the way we're going to work together, that is the best for both countries, for the program and for their country, for them to keep moving that way. So that really is, I think we need to embrace what we have. We need to tell them what we are, who we are, where we're coming from, what is our background, because at the end, we are all alike. We are all the same. We come from different backgrounds, and everybody brings something to the table. That it will be great when you are talking to other people and trying to negotiate or establish a relationship. They will connect with you in that part, and that will help you to do a lot of things.
Thank you both for those answers. And our final question is, what advice would you give to someone following in your footsteps, and how can we be ambassadors of our culture?
Well, I think it's very important to learn about different cultures and be respectful of the differences. I've seen on many occasions people trying to become part of a culture that they're not from. And I think we shouldn't be mimicking other cultures, but simply understand our heritage, represent it proudly, and be extremely respectful of others, other people's cultures and cultural differences as well.
Okay. Um, in the same theme that Cristobal mentioned is respect. You go out there to other countries, even they speak also your same language. We come from different backgrounds, and then we have a different words, for example, in Latin America that mean things. So is what Cristobal mentioned, instead of go and criticizing people because why you say this or how you do this, why you do this like that, is embrace that part. Is look at why people, why other countries, they do this, their activities or they do things in a way, and try to understand them, why they're doing that way. So by doing that, you're able to be more, to connect with them faster, to understand more why they culturally, why people do things that way, why they behave. And what Cristobal mentioned is excellent. You don't try to change anybody. You teach people, or you show them sometimes that there's sometimes a different way to do things, or there's a better way to do this, or there's a way to improve your systems, for example, quarantine systems or export systems or things like that. Is show them what is, sometimes this is maybe a better idea, not trying to impose. You try to show them, you try to work together with them, and then together, shoulder to shoulder, you work with the people and embrace the culture and show them that you're, like I mentioned before, you're not different from them. You come from a different background sometimes, but you have the same feelings, you have the same desires to do better for their country. And that's the most important part, is to give that message that we are not there as to invade things or to take things away from you or things like that. You are there to work with them, to see what they have, and to use what works. You keep using it, because what works in one country doesn't work in the other one, because of different backgrounds and cultures and political situations in sometimes. So you look at what they have, you see if it works there, you keep it. And then things that they need to change or they need to improve. I'm not say change, because sometimes people are very resistant to change. You look at, I put it in the way that is, let's improve this. Let's try to do this in a different way to see how we have a better result. And when you use that approach, then people automatically will lower their guard, will listen to you, and will try to embrace what you're telling them, or what you're trying to show them. And it's trial and error. Some people will try, and if it works, then other people will follow suit and will imitate what the other person is doing, because they saw that it works. So that's the most important part in this thing.
Thank you. We had 2 viewers submit questions, so I'm going to ask their questions. The first one is, what specific parts of your current position keep you passionate about your work? How do you balance all of your travel with your personal life?
Well, first of all, nowadays there's zero travel, but I've traveled extensively for 20 years, and it is a challenge to balance your personal life and your work commitments, especially if you're away for long periods of time. The key, I think, is to try to maintain a healthy personal life and maintain relationships. Thankfully, technology today allows you to do a lot of that. In terms of the first part of the question, what keeps me going and motivated? I am passionate about food security. As a veterinarian, I understand that we need food that is of quality, that is safe, affordable, and sufficient for everyone. And that is my true passion. So being in APHIS, that allows me to protect not only American agriculture, but improve the agricultural systems of other countries and other peoples. And that is truly my passion.
Well, what really motivates me is when you work abroad and you try to implement programs and you go into other countries, is the challenge of doing something different, is the challenge of problem solving and analyzing things and trying to change. And what really motivates me is that it's not, for me, it's not boring. Every day is something different. Even in my last 5 years that I was in like say in Guatemala, that you say, well, you were doing only fruit flies. Well, I was not only doing fruit flies. You do other things. You do other activities that keeps you really interested, because the most important part for me is to be always challenged to do something different, to try to solve a problem, and also that every day is different from another one. Even though I've been in places where security is an issue, and a lot of people are afraid of that part, but really security is an issue, but you work around that, and you work with in this case, with your embassy and your security officers, and you're able to accomplish some work. And in some places, security is better than in other places. For the last 11 years, I've been traveling a lot. This is the first time I'm like home for like 6 months now because of the pandemic. But it's really, I give credit to my wife and my son, because they understand the type of work that I do, and they are part of this, because when your family is moving from one country to another, they are with you, they are serving with you, they are part of this thing. So I appreciate the support. You need your family support, and also you have to, between travel and travel, you have to come back home in whatever country you are, and spend time with your family, and try to spend quality time with them, because that's what the relationship. That's why you keep the relationship running, but you need the support at home. You need that part. So that's very important. That's been very important in my life, that I've been keeping the support that of my family has been giving me, and also for me is the challenge to go out there and try to help people and try to accomplish something, to get something done. And when you see something done, and in that finally, and sometimes it takes years, you battling and trying to get something. When you accomplish that, you feel so good, and you feel that you did something, to help other people and to improve things.
Thank you, guys. So another question is, can you explain your experience prepping for the Foreign Service test, and then maybe touch on what it was like working at the embassy for whatever country you were in?
So as APHIS Foreign Service officers, we have a different process than the State Department. So there is no Foreign Service test per se, but there is an extensive interview. And in my case, I went through a training program to understand better my agency, and also to understand how to work abroad in an embassy. I had two very different experiences in Mexico and in Brazil. First of all, the APHIS office in Mexico is not within the embassy. It's in a separate place. So there was a physical distance between the embassy community and the APHIS office. Also, I was home because I am from Mexico, as I said in the beginning. So there was a very different level of interaction than I experienced in Brazil. Brazil was a much smaller embassy, even though it was a big post, but there was a true sense of community, and everybody in every different agency and the State Department was there to help each other. We were part of several groups. One of them was a training group, and we developed excellent relationships that are maintained to this day, even when we're abroad. So that part of working in a smaller post was very interesting for me, and I really loved the sense of community that we developed.
In my case, it's the same like Cristobal mentioned. We don't go through the test, but we go through a process of interview, selection, things like that, background investigation, and all this stuff. And then you get all the training from that. I've been in the same settings. I've been in APHIS offices outside embassies that are completely outside, in Mexico and in Guatemala. And then I was at the embassy in Haiti. It's a different settings in both places. You know, when you're outside the embassy, you are more independent. You're not, even though you follow, State Department rules, regulations, and procedures and everything, and the office is guarded like the embassy with security guards, and you have to comply with everything. There, it's more relaxed. You're not in that embassy settings, and it's different. You establish other type of relationship out there, especially with producers or public sector, Minister of Agriculture. Is more open there. When you are inside an embassy, like Cristobal mentioned, it's a different ball game. It's more restricted. The access is more restricted to the embassy, but then you create this relationship with the embassy community. So you interact more with all the other, besides Department of State and USAID, you interact with other agencies, CDC, the security agencies. So there are many agencies working out there, FBI and other ones that you interact more. Peace Corps, and I remember now, we have a very good relationship. So after my first two experiences, one outside an embassy, one inside an embassy, when I got to Guatemala, even though the office is outside, we are considered a secure place for the embassy. So we are like a extension of the embassy. But going every week or trying to go every week to participate in the country team meeting with all the other agencies, and you're head of agency in those cases, that brings you very close to all the other agencies, and they know you, and you're able to tell them what you do. Because for us, for APHIS, we do things that no other agency does out there. They don't understand. FAS understand what we do out there because we work very close with FAS, very close. But some other agencies or divisions from the Department of State or other agencies, they don't understand what we're doing. So you go there and you try to explain what you do. And also this also represents a challenge because we need to be out there in the countryside, out there looking at things. And the security represents a situation that, RSO was always we're trying to work with the RSO, never in a confrontational way, always in a way to help me to get this done because I need to go to this place, but if you cannot go, you don't go. So that's the difference between there. But the most important part is work with your security person to be able to do the job out there. Make sure that the other agencies, when you interact with them, you show them and you tell them what you're doing there. Because sometimes people will identify with you because they know about things about related to the thing. In my case, I found State Department offices that they work on for California, and so they knew about medfly because we helped them with the medfly outbreaks there. So it's you need to keep the balance. You need to keep the balance between the embassy, your office, other agencies, and also we comply with the regulations. Because as Cristobal mentioned at the beginning, you serve two masters. You serve the USDA, but also you serve the embassy, the ambassador, the embassy. So you need to be in those two worlds.
Thank you, guys. We have one last question. I know we're going past 1 o'clock a little bit. The last question is, when you are navigating the challenges as a USDA Foreign Service Officer, do you consciously consider when to use an American approach?
I'm not sure what that question means exactly. But when to use an American approach, I think, as Roberto mentioned earlier, in the US, we have developed ways to do things, both in how we structure our veterinary service, how we deliver animal and plant health protection, how we link with producers and other organizations. And I think we should show our counterparts how we operate in order for them to understand our limitations and also our possibilities to do certain things in a certain way. Sometimes countries are very open to understanding these differences, and sometimes countries are very set in their ways and are unwilling or unable to make changes to accommodate different structures and systems. So the American approach, as you call it, may not always be adaptable to other situations, but we have to follow our rules and regulations and understand the limitations that those impose. Roberto?
Well, yeah, Cristobal is right. The American approach, that is that direct approach, no, I call it, not too much interaction, just say things right away. Doesn't work sometimes, you know. It works inside when you're inside the embassy and you're dealing with your other agencies, yes, because they represent the U.S. government, so they understand what are you talking about, and that's the way I interact with the ambassador, the embassy, and other agencies. But then when you're working out there with your stakeholders and when other Minister of Agriculture from the country that you are there, or in my case in Guatemala, I was working with Guatemala and Mexico and Belize also. So imagine the difference of thinking. Then you need to be more flexible. You need to be aware of how the different countries, they process and they do things, and then you need to adapt to that way. So doesn't mean that you're not going to do your job. You do your job, not like the person in DC is telling you need to do this right away. You're going to find a way or a different approach than be too direct. So you need to accommodate that part, and you need to be flexible, and you need to understand what people are talking. And sometimes you need, instead of going directly and in one meeting doing something, then it will take maybe 2 meetings, because the first meeting is for drinking coffee and know each other and share information, and they're looking at you and they're learning from you. And then maybe in the second or the third meeting, then you go and start your work. So first, number one, I found out that you need to establish those relationships. And I grew up in a household, and also in a country where relationships are very important because it's the human part of this. And in the entire world is the human part. You need to establish the relationship with the person or persons, in group of people to gain their trust. And then once you gain their trust, then you will be able to accomplish many, many things. But use the American way sometimes won't work, that directly, because people could get offended sometimes if you're too direct, and you need to be soft and easygoing. And in my last post that I was dealing with Hispanic culture and also with Belize. Belize is British, practically Caribbean. I call it Caribbean British because they say they don't belong to Central America. But working with Belize was another ball game completely. For me, it's easier because they are more British or they are more American way. So they're direct and you can go and talk direct with them. But also they appreciate and they are looking for that connection, on that human connection, on that relationship that you have to create with them so they can trust you, and then they will be able to do with you everything. So it's both things.
Thank you guys so much. I know I enjoyed that. I'm sure everyone did. Apologies again for all the technical issues. I really wish that the two guys from State Department, Mr. Pardo and Mr. Garza, could have joined us. We're going to try our best to schedule another webinar so that they can do their presentation and we can ask them some questions, because I know both of their bios are very interesting. So I'd love to hear more. So thank you guys again. There was more questions. I'm sure you guys wouldn't mind if people reached out via email if they have more in-depth questions they want to ask. I know I might do that. So thank you all again. And again, apologies for the technical issues. I hope everyone has a great day.
Okay. Thank you.